Alright. Hey, good morning. Am I on live now? Let me see. Not sure if I'm on yet with that. Hey, if you guys are here and I'm on live, send me a message that you got this to make sure on the chat. Let's see. I'm on live yet. So happy Thursday. We are Carolyn. Okay, so I am on live. That's good to know. Hey, good morning, Stacy. And can you hear me okay? Cool. Oh, I forgot. I was going to get my little ear thing to chat with you guys to see if my volume is better. But happy Thursday morning. I wanted to chat with you guys this morning about, give you a little bit about COVID update, but I also wanted to chat a little bit about the brain and the gut. So, have you heard that the board of supervisors in Orange County have voted unanimously to set up some criterias to open up again and slowly kind of phase through or phase out the stay-at-home order in Orange County. And how many of you guys are here on the call that's in Orange County? Let me know in the chat box. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, on the slow phase out. Hey, Patricia, good morning. To kind of get folks back to work and get folks back to society here. I see that there's been a lot of pain with the joblessness. I think that's what, 25, 26 million Americans now without work. And I'm sure many folks are ready to go back and get off the unemployment thing and things of that sort. Good morning, Lawton. So it looks like they have like a 3-phase rollout with going back to regular society. The first one is to allow hospitals to do more elective surgical procedures, I think. The second is I heard of them allowing restaurants to slowly open while respecting the 6 feet distancing guidelines. I thought that was kind of cool. And eventually, barbershops and other locations, movie theaters and things of that sort will go live as well, assuming we don't get a big spike, right, in infections that everyone's monitoring as we go back slowly to society. So I wanted to let you know something really interesting that has been reported lately. Have you seen the news about the study and the clinical trials in China about Alzheimer's and what they've done with a product from seaweed? So there's something in a specific type of brown seaweed, I think, that have been noted to help with patients with Alzheimer's and memory loss. there are parts of the world where, hey Joe, hello from Hanoi. All right, Hanoi, Vietnam is watching, guys. It's gonna be late for you guys over there. What time is it in Vietnam right now, Joe and Jason? And there is a certain type of uh, based on epidemiology studies, they found that folks who live in areas where they ate this type of seaweed uh, at a higher amount than other areas, they have discovered that there happens to be a lower prevalence of Alzheimer's in those areas. And I don't know if it's the seaweed or I don't know if it's everything else in their lifestyle that's associated, and the seaweed's just something that's that's coincidental. So so there is a pharma company called Green Valley that decided to study the compounds in this seaweed, and and it was interesting because they went through the clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and found that that the compound that they extracted from the seaweed actually had statistical significance in uh, in the improvement of memory in patients with Alzheimer's compared to a control placebo group. Um, I thought that was super interesting, simply because, for one, it's a plant-based product that they're using, right? They extract it from seaweed. Um, but the science behind that was super interesting when I looked it up. And what they found out was that this product, now I'm not saying that everyone should be going out and eating seaweed soup, right? Because this product hasn't been tested in the United States in clinical trials. But it's been approved now in China by the Chinese FDA for the treatment of mild to moderate Alzheimer's. But I looked at the mechanism of action of how this worked. How is it that seaweed worked? And it turns out that the seaweed product helps with gut health. And if you've been following me for some time last year, I've done a lot of talks about how the health of your gut is connected to the health of your brain. Um, if you do a simple search, right, of of this Chinese company, I think they're called Green Valley. Here, let me type down in the chat box for you. I think they're called Green Valley Pharma, which is the name of the pharmaceutical company. Look that up, Green Valley, and you can kind of read up about uh, how neat this is, how this product, at least in from the Chinese um, FDA perspective, the data was compelling enough for them to approve it for the treatment of Alzheimer's in China. Not approved here. We haven't done the clinical trials here. But again, why is it that when you improve gut health, you also improve brain health? Does anyone know why is it that when we improve gut health, we also improve brain health? There has been a lot of data that has been published on this, the relationship between your gut and your brain. Do you guys want to see some data? I can put the data in the chat box. Maybe links to some clinical trials. Let me see if I can do that for you. Of some clinical trial links as well, right? That you can look up. Let me see. I'm gonna see if I'm on my laptop, so I'm gonna pull up a second box and try to link some data for you guys that's kind of interesting. Gut health or microbiome is what you want to look up. Microbiome. Does anyone know what the microbiome means? Anyone familiar with microbiome? Alzheimer's. The microbiome, guys, is essentially the bugs that live with you. If you were so your body's made up of cells, right? Your body's makeup is made up of cells. Did you know that for every human cell that is in your body, there are 10 non-human cells? I'm talking about bacteria, I'm talking about viruses and fungi. So here's a neat article I'm going to post here on our chat box that you can look that you can look up on the microbiome and Alzheimer's disease. So for every human cells that exist with you, you are outnumbered by 10 microbes, cells, 10 different microbes. So if you have 100 human cells, there's 1,000 microbes that live with that 100 human cells. We have studied, and what's been published is that based on the types of microbes that live with you, it can correlate to the diseases that you have. If you have microbes that are not friendly, it can cause conditions or increase your risk of conditions such as Alzheimer's and other conditions that I've seen linked to microbes, bad microbes, such as autism has been linked to your microbiome. Depression has been linked to your microbiome. There's a good number of health conditions that's linked to basically the microbes that live in your gut. And so we know that we can either improve the health of your gut with specific lifestyle change and hurt the health of your microbes based on your lifestyle changes as well. Okay, I got 2 articles linked for you guys there so far. Pathogenic microbes, the microbiome, and Alzheimer's disease is one article. The other article is on there as well. Here's an article from the Journal of Nature. I'm going to link that on my comment section for you. This is the Journal of Nature that's been published. So if you're on, you can take a look at the specific link there for later. And this was published in 2019. Oh, that's just last year, guys. And the title says, "The Microbiome, is it a target for Alzheimer's disease?" But my point is that gut health of your gut has a significant link to our overall health. Did you know that of all the bacteria that live in your gut, around 90% of those bacteria, of all the bacteria that live in your body, okay, of all the bacteria that live in your body, around 90% of those bacteria actually live in your gut. And it's really important to know that, because your immune system, or the majority of your immune system cells, are also located in your gut. So the bacteria, the viruses, the microbes are all in the gut, and the immune system cells are also in the gut. And my guess is they're in the gut because they are kind of keeping track of what's going on with the bacteria in there. And they're also kind of like your line of defense. If you harm your gut, if you hurt your gut through what I call the leaky gut syndrome, have you guys heard of leaky gut syndrome before? Right? If you harm your gut through nutrition, through lifestyle, through medication, through antibiotics, there are different ways that we can destroy our gut lining and our gut health. We break down the barrier that protects the rest of our body, right, from the bacteria and all that in our gut. It leads to a condition called leaky gut, and when leaky gut occurs, inflammation occurs because the immune system cells is designed to fight anything that leaks through your gut that should not leak through. And as the immune system cells are fighting those things that are going through, it creates inflammation. It creates what's called chronic inflammation, which leads to chronic diseases, right? So that's a big mouthful that I gave you guys, but the whole point is this. The whole point is that if we keep our gut healthy, and there are strategies to keep your gut healthy. As a matter of fact, what I'll do is I will probably email you guys a document that I'll create on how to keep your gut healthy. If you're interested in that document, guys, maybe if you're not already on my email database, you can get on my email database, and I will send you a document on keeping your gut healthy. One way to do that is to go to a website. You can go to my coronavirus website. It's called coronaVupdate.com. Put it on the chat group here. You can go to coronaVupdate.com and put in your email on there, and I will send you a document that I'll create on how to keep your gut healthy. So did you know that the bacteria in your gut is both good bacteria and bad bacteria? Does anyone know the purpose of good bacteria in our gut? What is the role of good bacteria? Why does good bacteria exist in our gut? What does good bacteria do in our gut? If you give me some guesses in the chat box and tell me what you think. Chat box of what you think good bacteria in our gut. Yeah, what do you think is the role of good bacteria? So good bacteria does 4 different things. There's 4 different purposes of bacteria in our gut, at least the good ones, right? Purpose number 1 is that it crowds out, and when you have a lot of good bacteria, it crowds out the bad bacteria and doesn't allow bad bacteria to take a foothold into your body and to grow. Okay, that's role number 1, and I'll type it out for you in the chat box. Let's see, rows of purpose of good bacteria. Purpose of good bacteria in our gut. So purpose number 1 is that it crowds out bad bacteria. Yes, Lawton, the good guys beat out the bad bacteria. You're right. What's purpose number 2? What's purpose number 2? Can one have too much good bacteria? I haven't seen that one can have too much good bacteria with that. Purpose number 2 is that good bacteria helps to produce vitamins that are needed. Helps to produce vitamins that are needed. I'm typing this out too in our chat box so you guys can see it. vitamins that are needed. For example, does anyone know what type of vitamins is produced by good bacteria? Does anyone know what types of vitamins are produced by good bacteria? Well, good bacteria is needed for vitamin B12 production. Vitamin B12 plays a huge role. The lack of vitamin B12 can cause a lot of problems, including peripheral neuropathy that starts in the leg, numbness and tingling. The lack of vitamin B12 can cause fatigue, chronic fatigue, lack of energy. The lack of vitamin B12 can cause vitamin B12 induced dementia and memory loss. And so that's one of a number of vitamins that is produced by good bacteria. So that is the second row of good bacteria, okay? The production of vitamins. Good bacteria plays the third row. Good bacteria helps to strengthen the lining of your gut. So the gut barrier, right? If this is your gut, the gut barrier, do you know how thick the gut barrier is, by the way? How thick is your gut barrier? If you know, type in the chat box. But so the barrier of our gut that separates the gut lumen, right, where the food is in, and your body, the barrier of your gut is actually only one cell lining thick. Pretty crazy when you think about it. The barrier of your gut is only one lining thick, one cell lining thick. And imagine that, right? If you break through the one layer of lining, of one cell lining, you break through that barrier, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, how thin that is. But the good bacteria also helps to maintain the integrity and to maintain the strength of that gut barrier. Super important. So that's purpose number 3, right? I'm gonna type it down for you. Maintain strength of gut barrier lining. Cool. So that's another purpose of your gut and of the good bacteria of your gut. So are you guys with me so far? Have I lost anyone? I want to make sure that you guys are actually, what I'm saying makes sense. Type in the chat box if what I'm saying so far makes sense, because I don't want to lose anyone by having too much science or talking about weird stuff. Okay. So let me know if you're following so far what I'm saying in the chat box, if it makes sense or not with that. So crowding out bad bacteria, the production of vitamins, strengthening the gut barrier is super important. All right, Steve, you got it? Cool. Yeah, you guys, I want to make sure that you guys are following me. So those are some of the reasons. Patricia's still with us. That's good to know. So those are some of the reasons that keeping our gut healthy is so important for the lining of our gut, for the production of vitamins. The last thing that the gut barrier does is this. And I'm talking specific about the microbiome, right? Your good bacteria. Vivian, you got it? Good. The last function of good bacteria is that good bacteria helps to stabilize and keep healthy our immune system. It helps to develop and keep healthy our immune system. Okay, so let me type that down in the chat box. Helps with immune system health in general. immune system health. How do we know this? We know this because we are linking autoimmune disorders to problems with gut health. We are linking chronic autoimmune disorders with problems with your gut health. It's very interesting because when you have good bacteria that helps that helps partner up with your immune system, it keeps your immune system healthy. When you have a destruction of good bacteria and a imbalance of the appropriate types of good bacteria in your system, we are noticing more autoimmune problems. We some published clinical trials and studies that's related with that, so that you'll know and you'll see the data. Okay, microbiome and an autoimmune disease. So in the Journal of Nature, 2018 published the microbiome immunity and how it's related. I'm sending you the link right now for that. A paradigm from the gut-liver axis is and here's another study, guys, published in the Journal of Clinical and Experimental Immunology. This was published just last year, 2019. The microbiome in autoimmune diseases. I'm going to post that on our chat box as well. So you guys who are here get the benefit of seeing the chat box and the links. You can copy and paste that link on your own stuff. But let me read an abstract for you from the Journal of Clinical and Experimental Immunology. It's a segment of the abstract states, in recent years, several studies have highlighted the role of the microbiome, which is basically your gut health, right? In the pathogenesis of autoimmune conditions, notably lupus. In patients with lupus, they have noted an alteration in the intestinal flora, which is essentially the microbiome, and it's been well described in conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis. They have noticed an alteration again in your gut health with the type of bacteria that are in there. In conditions like Sjögren's syndrome, they have noticed an alteration of your microbiome, and so we are starting to learn. Although this is very evolving, we are starting to learn the importance of keeping your gut health. All these other health conditions are starting to pop up with an unhealthy gut, that such as autoimmune conditions, conditions that are associated with the brain as well, including conditions like depression and autism. So I sent a few extra links there in the chat box for you guys to look at, where super important. Lupus, lots of studies on lupus and gut health that we are seeing now. And now you kind of understand why Alzheimer's is being looked at as well. Having a non-healthy leads to chronic inflammation. Having a non-healthy gut leads to problems with the immune system, having an unhealthy gut leads of certain vitamins. The question is, what is it that we do that destroys the health of our gut? Right? What do we do that destroys the health of our gut? Um, if you have some guesses or some thoughts about what destroys the health of our gut, put it in the chat box. What you think destroys the health of our gut? What kind of lifestyle or food or activities messes up our gut? Does anyone know what destroys the health of our gut? Put in the chat box if you think of things that messes up our gut with that. I think Vivian says sugar. Kristen says sugar as well. Man, you guys are like on the right path here. Sugar is toxic to our gut. These food that we're allergic to, yes. Sugar is definitely toxic to our gut because sugar feeds on the bad bacteria as well to cause fungal growth and stuff and bad stuff that we don't grow in our gut. The bad bacteria, the bad microbes feed is fed by sugar, and sugar is basically toxic. Patricia says artificial ingredients, yes. When we eat food that are essentially chemicals, right? Cindy says stress. Stress can play a role. Lawton says antibiotics, yes. Archana says bad food has. White flour products. Vivian says white flour. Yeah, white flour basically breaks down to sugar, isn't it? And so white flour, which is refined carbohydrates, break down to sugar. And sugar destroys the lining of our gut by feeding the bad guys. And as the bad guys get fed, it essentially kind of outnumbers the good guys, and we're in trouble with that. Foods that has artificial preservatives, artificial chemicals, what it does is that it makes your gut work harder to try to digest these artificial stuff. That should not be there, right? Preservatives, chemicals. When you look at a label, if you look at a label and half the stuff on there you don't recognize or understand, it's probably preservatives and chemicals, right? That's the stuff that makes your gut work harder. Your gut is a machine. Every time we eat or we drink, the machine goes to work. Does that make sense? Your gut is a machine. Every time we eat and drink, the machine goes to work. How many times in the United States do we eat a day? Right? I don't know how much it is in Vietnam, right? Jason can or Joe can. How many times do Americans eat a day, guys? Right? In America, especially with the shutdown and coronavirus and everyone's at home, right? I have this theory that if we are all going to survive coronavirus, we're going to die of obesity because all we're doing is sitting at home and I'm talking about myself here, right? Intermittent fasting is hard when the fridge is 10 feet away. In America, we got breakfast, right? And some of us have a little snack between breakfast and lunch. And Vivian says 2 hours. Yeah, every 2 hours, right? And then we have lunch. And then some of us how many of us have an act between lunch and dinner, right? We got lunch and dinner. and then we got dinner, and then some of us have a snack, right? The after dinner, the midnight snack, the after dinner dessert. When you think about it, Laotan says 6+ times a day. If your gut is machine and that machine goes to work every time we put food in our mouth, how often are we making this machine work? How often are we putting our machine to work? If your gut is a factory and that factory needs to go to work every time we eat, right? When does this factory get a break, guys? When does the factory get a break? If the factory starts to work at breakfast, and then we got the after breakfast before lunch snack, and then we got lunch, the factory's working again, and then we got right after lunch, before dinner snack, the factory's working again, and then we got dinner, the factory's working again, and then we got the after dinner snack. When does this factory ever get a break, right? When does this factory ever get a break? If you own a factory and you are the boss of this factory and you make your employers work from the time you wake up, breakfast, and employees are working throughout the day because of snack meal, what happens to this factory over time, guys? And your employees are forced to work from the time you wake up to the midnight snack. What happens to this factory over time, right? The factory is going to burn out, isn't it? The factory is going to be inefficient. The factory is going to overheat, overwork, because that's what's happening with the American style and the American diet. And when our factory starts to burn out, it's being overworked. The integrity of the factory, right? That factory lining, the machine starts to be inefficient. When the machine becomes inefficient, which is the gut lining, and the soldiers that are on top of the gut lining protecting it, which is your good bacteria. When it becomes efficient, when it starts to burn out because of being overworked from the 6+ meals we have today in a day, the factory breaks down. When the factory breaks down, the gut barrier no longer becomes a good barrier, and things start to leak through. Food particles starts to leak through. Chemicals, preservatives to leak through. Your gut is no longer protecting the rest of your body because it's overworked, it's overheated, and we're eating the wrong things. Does that make sense so far? When food starts to leak through, we get that leaky gut syndrome. Have you heard of leaky gut syndrome before? Syndrome is essentially an overworked gut from eating bad stuff. Not only are we eating too frequently, we're eating stuff that makes the gut overworked. Preservatives, sugar, right? Chemicals, stuff that shouldn't be in our body, right? It's like throwing a wrench into a machine that is working, and you throw that wrench by throwing in preservatives in your food. You throw that wrench by throwing in excessive sugar in our diet, right? Chemicals, stuff that shouldn't be in food. We're throwing wrenches into the machine, and the machine breaks down. When the machine breaks down, we cause leaky gut syndrome. When the machine breaks down, we cause chronic inflammation. When chronic inflammation occurs, you get conditions that includes Alzheimer's, that includes cancer, that includes disease. The major diseases today are caused somehow by chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation occurs when we destroy the health of our. Does that make sense? Right? We destroy the health of our gut. through the diet that we eat by destroying the good bacteria. Right? So guys, you guys are not lost. So type in the chat box if you're following me so far. How to improve health, right? What can we do to improve gut health? Type in the chat box some ideas on improving gut health, guys. I see that Carolyn here have wrote and to improve the good bacteria, you can eat yogurt or cultures. Greek Gods is a brand. So that's one option. I always recommend. My voice is cutting out. Okay, are you guys hearing okay? Diabetes is overwork of the gut. Patricia, diabetes is essentially when we are overworking our pancreas. Steve says fermented foods. Yes, fermented foods such as miso. If you like miso soup, that's fermented. So that's good. I'm going to email you guys a list of foods that will help to improve, that are natural probiotics without taking a probiotic. Does that sound good? You guys want an email of that? Of natural probiotics that are not where you take a probiotic. I'll send you an email of that. Patricia says natural foods. If you guys want that, I'll make sure you're on my email database. And I've already sent you a link on how to get on there. I'll write another link down there. You guys who came late is Corona V update is the website. You go to coronav.com, put in your email on there, and I'll add you to my database where I'll send you an email link on foods that help. Sauerkraut, yes, sauerkraut is fruited, so that will certainly help. I really recommend to patients that if you are taking an antibiotic, make sure that you're taking a probiotic during times that you take an antibiotic, because what antibiotics do, right? Antibiotics essentially kill bacteria, and oftentimes we take antibiotics. I'm not supposed to take antibiotics for viral infections. You should not be taking antibiotics, and unfortunately, it kills the good bacteria in your gut. When you use a course of antibiotics, how long does it take? And this destroys the good bacteria in your, right? How long does it take back up your microbiome? Does anyone know? How long does it take to build back your microbiome? Does anyone know? Archana, a line is good. Archana is saying one has leaky gut. How do you treat it? Well, you treat it by avoiding the foods that destroy leaky gut, sugar, and that includes simple carbohydrates, right? I'm not just talking about sugar like candies, cookies, and ice cream. I'm really talking about carbohydrates, white bread, white rice, pasta, pizza. I'm really talking about the American diet, right? It's the American diet, Archana, that destroys our gut, and we need to fix that with a diet that's not the diet. So Tim says days to rebuild the leaky gut or to rebuild the microflora. So here's what the data shows. The data shows that if you take a course of antibiotic and you destroy the good bacteria, it it takes it takes months to build back your microbiome, not days. It takes months to build back your microbiome. I'll send you a link to that study uh, that has been studied. That. So Tim, it's not days; it's actually in months to build back your microbiome. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Um, but to build up your good bacteria, it's avoidance of food that destroys good bacteria. That is story number one. I'm going to send you a link. There are other things antibiotics will destroy. I'm not saying do not take antibiotics. I'm saying do not take antibiotics for the wrong reason. And oftentimes we take it for infections. We take it for colds and flus, and whenever when we shouldn't be taking antibiotics for those specific reasons. Antibiotics do destroy the good bacteria, in which you need you need probiotics. So let me ask you this. Let's loop back. Let's loop back on gut health and brain. Okay, gut health and brain health. We have learned that gut health is bad. Did you know that? Meaning have a good microbiome, right? Are you hearing me now? Right? If you don't have a good microbiome, or if you don't have good gut health, linked to depression. Let me show you some studies. I'm gonna put it on our chat here. Microbiome, and eye-opening, guys, on the microbiome, and let me send you a link. To depression. Let's see, that's one. Here's that I'm. This one says the role of inflammation and the gut microbiome in depression and anxiety. That study was published just last year. As you can tell, a lot of these studies on the mic is very recent. It's very recent. They're not like studies that's like, years ago. It's a study of the microbiome. It's a new field of development that we are learning. And it's very exciting to learn this because we know what we can do to improve our microbiome. Here's another study. The Journal of, let me see, Clinical Psychopharmacological Neuroscience. And this says the gut brain is the missing link in depression. These three studies that I have linked already. Anyone know why depression is linked to a healthy gut? Does anyone know why depression to a healthy gut? Type in the box if you think, if you have any ideas on why depression is linked to a healthy gut. Tim, so months. That's yes. Depression. Does anyone know the name of the that is linked to depression? So if you don't have enough of this neurotransmitter in your brain, right, this protein in your brain, it can lead to depression. Does anyone know the name of that neurotransmitter? And I'll tell you why it's linked to why this is linked gut. Have anyone heard of serotonin? Serotonin. I'm going to type that. Serotonin, lack of serotonin, can lead to depression. We know that. We know that because most of our antidepressants are serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Most of our antidepressants, Prozac, Paxil, are designed to improve or to increase the level of serotonin in your brain. Okay, serotonin. So if you ever been on a depressant, most of them are designed to increase the level of serotonin in your brain. Now, with that, what does that have to do with what to do with the gut is this. 90% of the serotonin that's used in your body is made in the gut. 90% of the serotonin that helps with your mood in your brain is made in your gut. That's why there is a link between microbiome, gut health, and depression. It's also why it's a link between the microbiome and conditions like autism, which is a health condition. It's also why there's a link between the microbiome and anxiety. Isn't it crazy? Of course, there's a link between the microbiome and Alzheimer's that we have studied. Guys, health, gut health, your gut difference in the vitamins that's being produced, in the neurotransmitters that's being produced that affects your brain. Right? And so it's super important to keep our gut healthy with that. Archana says, is there anything that can coat the intestinal wall to prevent the leak? The way to strengthen your intestinal wall is to have a diet that promotes the health of your good bacteria and to minimize the growth of bad bacteria. So there is a pill to coat it, but through lifestyle, that sense. Our hour is up. That I have give you some good information about gut health and what that has to do with brain health and with health in general. I wanted to bring a little science to it for you. I've sent a whole bunch of stuff on there for you that essentially and look at the on since this study is saved anyway on Facebook. Look at the God bless talk go now minutes and on YouTube as well. And for you guys who view it on YouTube, already know I have a YouTube link. It is let me put the link out here, and so you can go and subscribe to it, so that you can go look at all my educational stuff. YouTube.com/C/ Okay, so I'm kind of going in and out, huh? You can hear me later, okay? Okay, it's probably bad Wi-Fi. So and I'll see. Bye now.